on basically building low-code apps to solve real-world problems, right? So my name is Rodney Sowirono, and I will be hosting this workshop for this afternoon. And I will guide you through what the different tools that we have to actually get you kickstarted on your hackathon journey, right? So what we're going to talk about here today is our Oracle's low-code approach. And hopefully you have fun as well listening to all the information that I can share with you, and I will share as well some real demos as well in this particular session. Yeah, so thank you again for joining, and with me also I have three panel members that will help me to address your questions that you have. We have Hua Jiang, we have Li Hua Lan, and we have as well Sutinder Quasi, who will be joining me and help you, answering those questions that you can put in your Q&A box. Yeah, so if you have any questions, just, put in the Q&A and we'll try to address it. Now, let's take a look at what do we have in store for you today. Yeah, so first of all, I'm going to talk a bit more about, what is the low code, what is low code in general, and how that could add value for you as a developer to develop faster, develop with less errors, and also bring up and build up intuitive way of designing your pages and your UI, right? So let's talk about low code first. Well, what is the challenge that we typically have in typical traditional application development? Because there are so many different languages, frameworks, and things and platforms that you need to set to place, it requires some specialized skills and the dependency on professional talent. And typically it has like long development cycles. And whenever you're, especially in this particular scenario where you have like limited time to build your application, now you need all the different tooling and frameworks to help you accelerate that. Also, the increase of business demands in general, which can result into huge application backlogs. Further, it's expensive to build and maintain a whole entire application stack. And usually development models, they lack agility, right? So there's not, typically suitable for rapid development, or if you want to iteratively build or you have new ideas, it will take, quite a few steps to really change those. Now, there's an answer for that. So low code, right? Why would you choose a low code platform to actually help you build those applications? Well, first of all, there's no specialization needed. It's typically very easy to learn. You actually write lesser code, and it helps you to innovate faster and make changes faster without having to do a lot of code. It provides the ability for you to rapidly deliver your applications and the acceleration of speed to market. It also addresses the business requirements with minimal cost, and it attracts and retains top talents with innovative culture. Now let's dig a bit more deeper into what I meant with that, right? So in typical traditional application development, you as the developer, part of a development team, right, will do the heavy lifting of building the application and then move it to production and go live. Now, typical, what you need is, underlying infrastructure. You need an application container, you need a database if you are building data-driven applications. You need a compute as well and storage, right? And on top of that, you're going to build your application logic. It will contain of the look and feel, the different devices that you need to support, the different business objects that you want to use within your application, the application flow, managing your users, managing access and privileges to your application. In some cases, you need to do application integrations and you need to build dashboards, right? So these are a lot of work that comes onto your teams or your development teams shoulders. Now, what is the problem here, right? There's a lot of lines of code the time to market to really build those applications and bring them to market, the ability to support multiple channel, think about, mobile devices. This morning we talked about digital assistants, or even web applications, right? Also, the ability for you to manage your infrastructure, right? And the support that you need to manage it, to support that you need to patch it or to bring it up or to even like help you to back up your applications. And when your application becomes successful, right, how do you deal with scalability and availability, especially now a lot of people working from home? If this application is running within your organization, you will have to provision the ability for them to connect to an internal system. And of course, performance, right? And once you have deployed your application and you want to release it, and a few years later you want to make different changes to it, who owns the code, right? How do you manage the changes within your application? Now, the answer to that, right, might be into local development platforms, right? So what is it addresses to you? It's the ability that you can develop your application quickly. The application that you develop is particularly available for web and mobile on device. And you can extend existing applications if you like, right? And if you have a small development team, then you can easily, take up large deployments, and have to be able to rely on infrastructure team to manage, your application runtime, your infrastructure, and the benefit that you need, right, for your application. And the most important thing of this, the applications that you build are enterprise grade and can scale and extend. Yeah, so that's what a typical proper local development tool or framework will provide you and have, will give you the benefits of that. Now, specifically, now you're planning, right, for this hackathon, what you're trying to build, right? So whenever you plan and whenever you look into a typical development lifecycle, we can actually divide it into 4 parts, right? So we have the planning stage, we have the code and unit test stage, then we have the ability for you to deploy and deliver. And then of course you need to manage, the differences or the change requests that you get from your application. And then you have to go through a unit testing, etc. Now, in the traditional approach, planning your infrastructure, your software prerequisites, etc., it's quite tedious and it takes proper planning, and you need to spend quite some time to actually get them up. Even like, getting your hardware and the networking in place. Well, with using a local platform, and especially when it runs into the cloud, this provisioning of these environments can be instantly. And later on, we're gonna see like, how Oracle, a local platform, can is actually being able to provision very quickly and rapidly. Well, whenever you do your code and coding and unit tests, there's a lot of, in traditional way, there's a lot of lines of code that you need to write. And with visual development, with visual and ready-made or ready-to-use components, you can easily use drag and drop to actually start building your application. Right? All the different tools that are available to manage your data, to build up your data model, etc., are available in there. So it takes at least up to 75% less effort for you to actually set that up and build your data structure and data model and build your user interface, yeah, on top of that. And when it comes to delivery and deploy, as you know, you need to set up your UAT environment, you need to set up your production environment, etc. And to be able to move it, of course, you can use proper CI/CD tools to help you to move those builds from development to UAT to production. But in a way, like using the low-code platform, it will provide you those automated build and automated deployment capabilities. And of course, there, when you have deployed and put your application to deliver into production, and there is some changes that needs to be done, then you can easily do that. Let's say like, one of your key developers have left the organization, or one of your team members. How do you, take over the code? You need to read through those lines of code. You need to understand what this developer has done. Well, using low code approach, right, it will remove these dependencies on code understanding, right? So in the long term, low code platform or low code development platforms will help you tremendously accelerate your application development, and also delivery and managing changes. Yeah. Now, let's talk about Oracle's low code platform, right? Oracle's local platform is what we call Oracle's Application Express. Now, Oracle's Application Express has been there for quite some time, right? And this is kind of like what they call a hidden gem within the Oracle stack. It basically provides you the ability to build host applications in a fast and simpler way with zero install. And it's a low-code based visual development experience in the cloud, right? I mean, like customers that we have are users that are people that are using Oracle database. They actually have access free of charge to Oracle Application Express, right? They can easily deploy that into their environment and use it. But in the cloud, we have made it actually more simple, right? We have actually pre-installed, pre-configured everything for you. And then simple click of provisioning a database, right, in Oracle Cloud will enable all these, development frameworks for you, or the development platform for you, right? So there's very little that you need to do. And it comes as well, when it comes to setting up your production, setting up your UAT, etc. It's the same way of deploying it. So Apex, or Oracle Apex, is a high productivity local development platform. It can be used for any type of users, like business analysts, or even local developers, or even hardcore developers can use and build scalable and secure data-driven web applications. And as I mentioned before, right, Apex is actually free of charge for all our Oracle database users. It runs on all Oracle databases, right? Whether it's deployed on premise or on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or even other, cloud vendors that are providing, Oracle databases. And especially with our Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, and when you make use of our autonomous databases, it's all automatically provisioned. So you don't have to do anything about that, right? So, whenever you're going to explore your, you're going to plan your hackathon, or the application that you want to build, you can actually choose what type of database you want to use within our Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Now, the good thing about it is that your free, or always free, licenses that you can use in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure will actually give you the ability to spin up an autonomous database and spin up automatically provision the Apex development framework. Yeah. Now with Apex, what can you do, right? You can basically transform, your spreadsheets in web applications in minutes. And this is one of the demos that I'm going to show you today. And of course, I mean, like there's some of the hands-on labs that we're going to share with you that you can actually experience this yourself. Besides that, right, it also helps you to accelerate your productivity by using like free self-service web applications. So what does it mean, right? Apex comes with tons with quite number of pre-built applications, right, for particular use cases that you can just install or deploy and use, or you can deploy and use and make it your own, right? So you can use that to accelerate your development as well. Of course, it can be used to build new or extend existing enterprise applications. You have the ability to actually connect to data sources, so external data sources through REST. You can manage those endpoints within Apex. You can set up or expose your data model or your data that you have within Apex, which is running in an Oracle database, and And you can then enable it actually to have other applications query the data as well. All the design components and layouts that we provide for you in the Apex is all based on responsive web design, right? So you can easily build desktop applications. You can easily build mobile web applications that will uh, that will basically render appropriate to your to the display or the size of your screen on your mobile device. Furthermore, as Apex is data driven, right? There's a lot of data that you have in the database, and you can, do a lot of analysis on your data. We provide visualization and management for data. So there's a quite cool out of the box toolings that you can enable for your business users or enable within your application, right? To do analysis on your data or to provide a dashboard with statistical data on or statistical reports on your data. And of course, if you are strong in SQL or PLSQL and you have CSS cascading style sheet or JavaScript expertise, they can even make your application even more dynamic and more powerful, right? So as you can see here, it's the ideal platform, right, for a wide range of developers. Look at citizen developers. You have professional or pro developers. You have lines of business developments and data scientists. They can all make use of this framework to build their application and to build an application that makes sense within their organization. So the development framework will apply the ability to develop desktop and mobile apps. You can visualize and maintain the data set in the data, and you can leverage your SQL skills and database capabilities. Yeah. So again, right, if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the Q&A. We have a team that will help me to actually answer those. Now, here's where the interesting part is, right? How does it look like? What can you do? How does Apex, look in action? Now, as I mentioned, right, developing an application in Apex, right, or developing an application in general, first of all, you always start with your data, right? What kind of data do you want to use in the application? Is it data that you manage yourself, right? Or data that you have in an Excel sheet, or you have it in a database, right? So you build up your data model or your data set first. Whether the data is available external, right? Either in CSVs or a REST endpoint or web service that you want to call, right? All this can be accessed through Apex. So once you have your data available, then you actually create an application. Now, creating an application can be as easy as using the built-in wizard, right? That can help you to generate your application based on the data set and data that you have. So once you have done that, then you have to actually have a fully functional, responsive web application that can run in a browser on your desktop, or it can run on a tablet or in other mobile devices that you have browsers in there. Yeah. Now, here's where I'm gonna switch over to the live demo that I'm gonna do, right? So I'm gonna show you how easy it actually is to build an application from a spreadsheet. Well, what I mentioned before, right? There are many ways to get your data in, and all the capabilities are actually provided in detail within the live labs or the labs that we're going to share with you that you can do on your own. And there's some recommendations that I do. But for this particular session, I've chosen the most easiest way of getting your data into Apex and building a user interface on top of that. Right. So first of all, I'm going to run a quick overview of how can you get access to Apex, right? And then what you need to do to actually create a workspace. So once you have your workspace, then you can actually start building various applications within that particular workspace. And this workspace can be accessed by multiple team members, right? And they can actually go and help you build your applications, and you can manage your application in there. So once that we have done that or run through that, I'm going to show you, like, how can we create a new application out of a spreadsheet. Now we can upload the spreadsheet, but Apex will provide you also a large data set that you can use for test data. Right. So from there, I'm going to show you how we can actually improve some of the screens that has been auto-generated within the wizard, right? And how you can make it your own, and how you can actually use those built-in components to craft out your user experience for your business users, or for the end result of your application. Right. I'm going to talk about customizing the user interface a bit, changing the theme, changing the different options in the template, and also looking at how you can easily, make a mobile UI, right, by, changing the component that renders the user the navigation bar. Right. And at the end, I'm going to show you as well how you can actually expose the data that you have in your Apex application, and make use of that data in, let's say, other user interfaces, like, chatbots, right? Or if you want to, expose that into another application, that you can actually go and create REST services for your data. Yeah, so I'm going to show you, those kind of capabilities. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch to my desktop, and I'm going to open up my Apex application. So first of all, so hold on. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to show you our Oracle Cloud, right, infrastructure. So as you know, and every lab that we have will actually help you to provision. So what you can do, and this was discussed this morning, if you didn't attend to it this morning, there is a video available that actually runs through how you can register yourself, right? And how can you actually go and get access to your cloud infrastructure. Now, I'm going to log in into my instance that I have running in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And I'm going to actually show you a bit about where and how can you actually make use of Apex. Right. So let's go into the overview here. So whenever you log in, right, you actually come into this welcome screen, where there's a few quick actions that you can do, right? So there's, like, especially like for us to use Apex, what we need to do is to have access to an autonomous database. Now in here we see, like, we have the autonomous transaction processing, and we have the data warehouse database, but we also have other databases like JSON database, and we also even have like a Apex as a service, right, that you can deploy. Now, what is the differences, right? The difference is more about the use cases that you have. If you need to do in your project a lot of analysis on your data, right, and you need to import loads of data that you want to analyze, then ADW, or Autonomous Data Warehouse database, would be suitable for you. It also comes with Apex pre-installed. Or if you have an application that needs to perform more on the transaction type of base, then you use the autonomous transaction processing database. But if you only want to use, you don't need any additional access to the database, but you just want to build your application, right? Then you can actually provision a application development instance, or Apex service instance. Yeah. Now, in my case, and something that I would recommend to you, is to actually start using the always free autonomous transaction processing, or ATP database, right? So the thing that you need to do is actually just create the autonomous database, and you have here, you specify the compartment, display name, etc. You choose your workload type, infrastructure, you configure the database, right? And here you can actually specify, and in your case, what type of database you want to use. So ATP is part of the always free, so you can actually create an always free database with Apex. So once you have actually type in all the details in here, then what it will do, OCI will provision your database, and it will take about 10 minutes to complete, right? So you will get an email notification that your service is up and running. Now, the version that I'm going to use in this particular demo is my instance, which is my Apex demo instance. If I go into the ATP database there, I have access to all the different tools, right? Now, here's where the difference is, right? If you make use of the Apex service, you will not have access to machine learning capabilities within the database. So the Oracle ML user administration will not be available for you, right? You will have access to tools as like SQL Plus or SQL Web, right, where you can actually access your database, and Oracle Application Express, but those are the things that you have access to only. Yeah. So no ML capability. So if you, in your project, right, that you're planning, if you need to make use, you want to make use of some ML capabilities, or you want to make use of functions like location based modeling, right? So using spatial data, then I would recommend you to use ATP database for that. There are some lab exercises as well that will help you to actually understand on how you can actually use the machine learning capabilities in Oracle's conversion database, right? And also how you can actually make use of the spatial data, right, to map to the data that you want to use within your application. All right, so we have a lab exercise for you for that, that you can just do. It takes about 2 hours to complete that one. Now, in my case, I've already set up my ATP, and I'm going to go and open up my Application Express, right? So it is a web-based interface, right? So you don't need to install any IDE. The only thing that you might want to install is maybe SQL Plus to maybe connect to the database from your laptop. But even those tools we provide you within Apex, and it will show you to you that at this moment as well. So what I do is actually log in. In your case, you will actually log in into an admin interface, where within the admin interface, you will need to set up a workspace. And once you have created the workspace and a user that you want to use for development, or you have added the other users to it, then you can actually go and log in as your user within your within your workspace. Now, in my case, my workspace is called Web Series, and the user I'm using is Web Series with password, and I basically sign in. Right? Now, what you see here is like the home page or the starting page of Apex, and congratulations, welcome to Apex. Yeah. Now, let me quickly go through this. So within Apex, we have different tools. We have the tools for you to build your applications, right? So you can create a database application, you can create import existing and export, and these are different workspace utilities and migration of existing applications that you have in a different Apex workspace. Then we have all the database tools in SQL Workshop. We have the object browser that you can go and view all the different database tables that you have. You can test your SQL commands with SQL commands. You can run SQL scripts. There are other utilities here, like a data workshop for importing bulk data, building your queries. Quick SQL that helps you to easily build up your schema, and also build relational schemas as well, right? So there are lab exercises on that one as well, that I'm going to show you later. And of course, what I want to show you as well is the ability to actually expose the data that you have into RESTful services, right? So that's one of the things that we have. Yeah, then we have team development. So this will, keep track of the different milestones in your project. There are different templates available for this and different utilities for you to say, like, what needs to be changed and to track your development. And the other cool thing here is all the different sample apps that we have out of the box that you can really use to, learn about, some best practices. And even some of the productivity applications here are actually production ready applications that you can actually pick up and use. And from there, customize to your own requirements. Yeah, so we have things as the project tracker, opportunity tracker, we have survey builder, etc. Right. Now the productivity app or the sample application that I would recommend to you to install is the universal theme sample application, because that will give you a lot of details on how you could modify your themes, how you can customize it, and how you can make use of the different components within Apex. Yeah. And I have installed the universal theme, so I can actually go and run this application. Right. So this will give all the information. There's even like for icons, for example, we are making use of like font icons capability. Here's a preview, and here's the code that you can use, and you can actually go and modify here how your behavior is of the different icons that you have. So this all like built it into this universal theme application. Then we have also the similar thing for buttons. Yeah, so if you want to create your buttons, and there's a preview on how you can manage the different buttons. Yeah, so this is one of the applications that I will recommend for you to actually go and deploy into your Apex instance. All right, now let's get back to actually building an application from a spreadsheet, right? So what we do is we just simply actually go to Application Builder. Now what we do here is we click on Create an Application, and there are three options here that you get to start building your application. And keep in mind, right, the first thing that that needs to be done first is your data, right? So how do you want to store your data? So how is your data schema going to be? So this is the first thing that we will be doing. Right, we can create a new application based on an existing schema that we have, right? Or we can actually, load the schema from a CSV, Excel file, or XML or JSON file, and we can install a productivity app. Now, in my case, I would like to create an application based on a Excel sheet. So I can go and upload the file, upload the Excel sheet, choose this file here. But the great thing about Apex is it will also comes with sample data. So the project I'm going to create, or the application I'm going to create, will be something with projects and tasks, right? So I have here a data set that I can use to actually start building this application. Here I can run through this data set, right? And the only thing that I need to do is click on Next. What it will ask you is, like, in which table do you want to store, right, this data set? And you have to provide the table name. And at the bottom here, you can see how this data set is going to be stored within your database. And so in my case, I'm just going to call it a hackathon. Yeah, hackathon data. So you can even go and see how the columns are loaded. In this case, we have the project, task name, start date, etc., budget, and preview, right? Primary keys is the identity column that's going to be generated, or you can actually use a system GUIDs, automatically generated, right? And the file encoding. So the next thing I do is actually load the data. So what will Apex do? It will actually create a table within the database, and it will load the data set into the database. Okay. So It always happens with live demos. It's always something. So let's do it again. Gonna look at the project and task, and let me just give load data. Okay, now it's created a table called hackathon. It's imported 73 rows. Now what I can do here, I can go and view the table, or I can say, okay, let's create the application now using the Apex wizard. Okay, so I click on create application, and what Apex will do, it will actually use a blueprint and based on the data set that you have, it will recommend some of the screens, right? So here you give basically the application name. You have different out-of-the-box themes that you can choose from, right? So we have different theme styles here. So let me use the Vita Red. Then we can, change the application icon. Maybe I want to make use of red icons, and because we are talking about project management, so let's take this icon here. Of course, you can also use your custom theme by importing a theme that you have created, right? Now, as you can see here, it has created 5, very different pages for you. Of course, the home page. Then it actually created a dashboard, and based on the dashboard, it actually created some of the data visualization screens based on the data that you have. Then this comes with, they have created a faceted search and an interactive report for the data that you have, and a calendar, right? Now, these are all pages that you can go and modify here. You can even start changing the way that you want to navigate through those pages, or how the pages will be formed into a navigation bar. But the great thing is also that there are additional features, right? And these are the typical things that when you build an application, those are typical features that you want to have in your application, like an about page, or an ability to manage your access control based on the roles that you have in the application. Maybe some activity reporting about how the usage is of your application. Do you want to provide any personalization for the end users, that you can actually go and select what theme they want? And of course, you want to get some feedback from those that are using your application, and you can actually enable that functionality as well. And of course, there's some configuration options that you can use for as an administrator, and enable that for you to do. Now, let's just check it all then, right? So then we can see what it actually creates. Now, this is basically it. Now, what you do next is actually click on create application. Apex will actually build you all these applications this application for you, based on what you have selected here. And again, right, as you can see, we don't have to set up a server. We don't have to set up, your frameworks, etc. Building application or connecting to a database is made very easy, and this basically generates your application for you. Now let's see. As you can see here, it has kind of like created about 20 odd pages here. And as we can see, right, although we only specify 5, or ask Apex to actually build 5 or 6 different pages, or 5 pages actually, it actually also creates all the different controls for you to perform CRUD functions. Like, I want to update my data in a particular view. I would like to delete, etc. All these functions are also being taken into consideration while this application is being generated for you, right? So let's take a look at how the application looks like. So I'm just going to run this application from there. So automatically it provides authentication, so you can easily select or specify whether you want to have a page being secured by username password, or you want it to be a public page, right? So you have these controls, but by default, everything has to be secure. So we enable by default login to your application. So you can just use your username and password that you have as developer. I click, and it tells me to actually go and change my current password. So the thing is, I have to check what my current password is because I have been saving this all. So let me just quickly look up what my current password is. And of course, in the meantime, if you have questions, please feel free. While I'm looking for my password. Let's see if this is the right one. That was not the right one. Okay, this is the right one. Okay, so I've updated my password. So here we have basically the application that Apex has generated for us. So this is the home page, right? We have dashboard, we have the search, we have report, we have calendar. Then if you go to the dashboard, right, it's from the data set that we have, it actually created a project view, the different tasks that are there. Then we have status, on hold, close, right, from the project and assigned to which user, right? Then what it created as well is a faceted search, right? So here you can actually go and crawl your data and search for your data. Yeah, so here you can filter. So all these capabilities and components are all there for you to use, right? And of course, I'm going to show you later on, like how can we kind of like modify these views to tailor to more of your requirements, right? And again, right, this is one of the approaches that you can use if you have a data set, and you can then change it yourself. Now here, what it did for you as well is to allow you to query to your database and actually go and make changes to, or update the data that you have through the user interface. And of course, you can also, delete the data as well, right? Then here, these components have other things like aggregation functionality. You can plot charts, or you can make different screens here. So all these capabilities are already, available on these built-in components, so you can really build a nice view for your end users. And a calendar, and in this calendar we actually already preload all the data that it could find within your database. And of course, this is the administration part, right? The actual additional components. So the activity reports, here you can see the activity metrics, etc. So these are the things, and of course feedback. So I see here, if I, as an end user, I provide feedback, and the feedback will be stored in the database. And you can actually see here as the administrator how much feedback you have and what is the feedback that the user has given. and of course the help page and about page. Yeah, so this is all being done for you, right? So really, if you have your data model in place and then you want to quickly generate an application, make it usable, share it. Now think about in your organization or in any organization where we still use spreadsheets, right, to track something. You can easily make it in a web application and share it across those that needs to update that. So you don't have the problem always like aggregating or collating all the data that you have of the various versions of the spreadsheet going around the organization, right? Now the other thing that you might have noticed, right, is here is the developer bar, right? And especially if you're still on development mode, then you can have the bar. So this gives you access to, if you want to edit this page, you can edit page 1. You can look at the session data, the page information, a quick edit, right? Where you can actually say like, okay, in this case, I can click here and what are the properties for this particular content block, right? So I have the different regions, can use the template defaults, etc. There's the list, how many columns, layout. I can click to change it to 3-column layout, right? So here you have like properties that you can provide or have to quickly edit, right? And if I quickly edit on this, I click, then I go to my actually development part where I can start building the page, right? So I have here my navigation block, and in this navigate block I have the different properties that I can go and change, right? So there are many properties, there are identification, source, layout, etc., right? But let's go and take a look into modifying or changing some of the screens, right? So let's go back to the application. And if I go back to my report page, right? So in this report page, I have an edit button, but in here, I would like to make from the status, I would like to make it a drop-down listed. So I can actually go and instead of typing in the status, I can go and modify it by drop-down. Now, how do I do that, right? So what I can do, I can click on here now on quick edit, and I can go into and highlight the state, and I can click on it, and it will take me directly to that particular piece of code that I want to change, right? So it takes me to the item called P1 status. So this will hold actually the status, and here we can see the attributes, right? It's a text field, label status, etc. Now what I want to do, I want to make it a drop down, so I can go and choose a different type for this. So I will choose like it's a select list, right? Now from this select list, right, I would like to change the list of values, right? It will identify to you like if there's still some parameters that needs to be filled up. Now in this case, I would like to have it the values as a SQL query from the data that I have. So my table is called hackathon, right? So what I'll do is I just type in my query, right? Select distinct. I would like to have the status, right? So you can see here there's a status table, or at least the status column. And this will be my basically display value, right? And next, I would like to have the status as my return value, right? And this information, I would like to get it from my hackathon table, right? Now, what you can see here is basically I just created the database for all the status variations, and populate the drop down list. Now, if you don't know what your different how you call it, if the different columns are, you can actually click on this, and it will take you to your object browser, where you can actually go and check the table that I have, which is the hackathon table, right? And then you can actually go and create your query through here as well, right? So I've the task and the status here, right? Now, in my case, I can also now validate my query if my query is correct, right? So here you see it is successful. Clicking on OK. And what we can do now is actually go and test this. So I save it. I go back here to my report and actually go and open up my report here. And I can see that it has been changed to, a drop-down list, right? For to actually select the values, right? Of course, maybe we want to disable an empty value. So let's go back to the designer. And here I can say, okay, extra values switch off and display null value. And I save, and I can go and check it again. Right? Now, the behavior here is only those values that, and it has to have a value, right? Either on hold, open, pending. Right? So here's how you can change. Now, if you want to, let's say, have these two side by side, let's go quick edits, go to this component. And now I want to have this side by side, so I can go and change, the layout a bit. I have it side by side now. And if I save it, go back to my application, and you can see I've quickly changed the way that I would like to enter data into this application, right? Of course, you can do many other things. You can make use of dynamic actions, which will automate that can help you to hide or read only certain attribute values. You can use JavaScript and those kind of things. That's all capable of doing that. Yeah. Now this is one of the changes that we can do. Now let's take a look at some of the reporting capabilities, right? So I've shown you that these are different actions, right? So what you can actually do is you can actually generate a report, or you can actually say like, okay, for this particular view, right, I only want to show, I don't want to show this assigned to. So you can actually go and apply it directly to this view, and you can save this view, right? And if I save this view, I can save it as a default setting, right? So that every user that comes into this particular page, it will then see this particular view, right? So those are the things that you can do as well, right? So let me just get this back. Assigned to, I want to make it maybe here, right? All right, so the other thing that we can do here is to actually start building some reports, right? So let's go and take a look at some of the reports here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start grouping it by first. So I want to group this data, and I want to group it as project, right? And I want to have the sum of the cost, right? And this is going to be my project cost. And the format that I want is basically dollars, right? All right. So I want to add another function, say it's going to be, again, the sum of my budget. And it's going to be my project budget. And I want to have the similar, and I apply. So you can see that this view now, right, is actually grouping the different projects by project cost and project budget. Yeah. So now what we can do is we can even have, like, for example, the totals of each, the project cost and the project budget, right? So what we can do extra is we can add things like a, let's say, a control break. So go to format, right? So format, and we can actually do, let's see, let's go back here. Let's go back to the format, control break, right? So what we can do here is then, let's say, the different projects, right? And I would like to, from the project, what I want to do is to maybe let's enable to apply, right? So then we have here the different projects, right? So this is project, bug tracker, etc. Now what we want to do maybe here is to do some data aggregation, right? So I want to aggregate maybe the sum of the cost, right? Then we see here the sum of the cost in here, and we will make another aggregate, right? The sum of budget, right? So here now we can see how we can easily, without any coding, right? I mean, you have your data or your database. Now, how you want to make this change of the different, view or the different reports, that you can actually go and do it using these components as well. So now what we do is that now we can actually save the report, and as a default report, primary, and apply. So now every user coming into this application will actually go and see this report, and this report now will be done through here, right? Okay. Of course, we can make changes into calendars as well, etc. Right? So as you can see, there's a lot of things that we can actually do out of the box without any, without any much coding. Yeah. So again, we have lab exercise that you can follow up later that can really help you with the different details. Now, the last thing I want to show of the show on here is how do we do theming, right? So I told you about we can actually control the colors, etc. We have a theme, but there's also what we call it a theme roller, right? So the theme roller will actually help you to modify like the current theme, right? So we have the global colors, we have the different containers, we have different colors, the body of the container, navigation, right, etc. Also, you can specify your custom CSS class, and then from there you can actually call it or assign this particular class to this component that you want, right? So in case that, let's say we create to change the global colors, like for example, the accent header. Let's say I want to, make it a bit. Let's go into more greenish, right? You can see that it really, make the changes according to and live, right, according to the changes that you made here. And also what it does automatically as well, it will change the accent colors automatically. And let's say, right, for example, for navigation, right? I want to, you can see there's some exclamation marks here, right? Some warnings. So this particular warning, right, will actually give you like kind of like the ability to say like, okay, the contrast or whenever you use a certain color combination for accent color or for links, it's not gonna work properly, right? So that it will actually help you to identify where do I need, what is correct, right? When it comes to using the right colors within your application, right? And what is really readable. So it will give you these hints as well while you're, making or creating a custom theme or a theme for your application, right? Of course, also with buttons and regions. So for example, for this region, right, I would like to change the header color into red. Is this a region? No, that's not a region. Sorry, this is a container. You can see container, I want to give it like some rounded corners. And I would like to have the body color or the title, the header, not blue, but make it red. Yeah. Oh, it doesn't allow me to do that. Right. So, I mean, all these differences, yeah, all these things that you can actually go and modify and change, rounded color, rounded corners, etc. Right. And once you have done the change, you can actually save it, and you can save the changes. You can name the style that you want and then set it as current. Yeah, so I will not do that. I will just keep it here, right? So this is the theme roller. And of course, if you want, you have the quick access as well. If you want to change this particular component, I can go here, what I showed before, right? I can say like, the header should be a different accent color, like accent color 6, or let me see, accent color 11, right? I can go and remove the whole UI decoration itself, or I can, remove the borders only, and alignments, etc. So here you have control over, like, how this particular component should look like. Yeah. And if it's for list, I can say a 2-column list. You can see, in this case, it is not make. And here the rounded corners, right, for the icons, apply theme color, etc. Right. So here you can really have control, and then save it, and then change it into your save and in your application. Of course, when it comes to editing this particular one, you can do it one by one, right? So like the configuration, let's say I want to change these 3 in one go, then I can go into the appearance here, and I can say the appearance here should have all accent 12, right? So now if I save it and I would refresh this page, I have multiple, I have changed multiple components in one go, right? So really makes it easy for you to do so, right? So this is kind of like an introduction to, creating an application using a spreadsheet, either in my case, like data that I have that Apex will provide to me. Of course, and this particular thing that I've shown to you is there is a full exercise that you can actually do yourself. It will help you step by step going through this, and all the things that I've done, it will show you there. Now, the other thing that I wanted to show, right, is how can we now expose this data, right? So I go to SQL Workshop and I up on my object browser. So here is the table that I have. It's the hackathon table, right? I can do all different. You can modify columns, drop columns. If the number of characters is not sufficient, then I can go and change that. Can create lookup tables, etc. I can go and query my data. I can modify the data from here as well. Now, but what I would like to do is to actually enable this data to be accessed through REST, right? So what I do here is I'm going to go to REST. I click on yes. In my case, I will just disable authorization, so it is easy to demonstrate. I click on apply. So what I've done now, I have now enabled my data and accessible through a REST endpoint, right? So let me see, Postman. Postman will give a better view. Of course, you can specify, this is like, for example, a lookup for, just give me all the data, right? Of course, you can say, you can specify a post, or say a delete REST endpoint, a specific view REST endpoint, right? So you can actually go and modify these yourself. So I will show you that one as well. So if I just, let me open Postman, I can show you better way how it's actually structured. Yeah, so this is the data, right, that I then actually have exposed, or my data exposed as a REST endpoints. And then you can use this in other applications that, that you need to reuse the data, right? It could be a native mobile application, or it could be a chatbot, for example. You can just query it. Yeah. So where can we actually manage these more details of these REST endpoints, right? So I'm just going to go to here, which is the ORDS RESTful service, and I have the different modules that I can. Yeah, so this is enabled objects. So I have the hackathon enabled, right? And I can, easily create your own modules. So if you look at the module here, this is an example of HR. I have employee info. I have the employees. I can query by ID. I can have a feed. I can, you can create all different types of endpoints. So basically your main endpoint here, and then you have the different resources that you can create, right? So it's like employee format, employees resources, and behind this resource is basically and this is a get, is basically a query, right? So this is basically the query that you execute while you're calling this endpoint. You can format the return, right, and the source. Yeah, so these are for you to really make use of the data that you have in a database. And once you have defined all your endpoints, then you can actually generate a Swagger document, and this can easily be loaded into, integration cloud, for example, and it will then expose all the different endpoints for that integration. Yeah. Again, very easy. It's all in there. All the things that you need are there. Okay. So that was the REST endpoint. Now, let's take a look at other database or other ways of accessing data, right? So in this case, we kind of like assume that, okay, we have all the data sets, we can import it easily into the database, right? And then change it. But well, how do you deal then with data that comes from a backend system that will be updated? How can we get the data from a backend, right? Now, in that case, you can actually specify endpoints, right? So let me open up another example that I have, just to save some time. Right? I had some pre-built examples. All right, so what I want to show you is, like, for example, I have an application, and let me just go to here. Um, okay. where is my data source? REST data source. Okay, so this one is not working. Okay, so this application, right? So let me run this application. In this application, I get I'm getting this data, right? Which is like, you know, countries and all the details of the different countries. I can do a report on this, right? So this is like data that I'm getting from a public REST endpoint, right? So what I'm going to do here is, now how do I get this data, right? So let me go and search there and then edit page 3. Right. So this particular REST country is coming from a view, right? And this view is getting from a schema. So what I do is, okay, first of all, what you can do is connect directly to a REST endpoint, right? However, every time you access the application or you access the page, it will call that REST endpoint and it will download all the data and it will actually get it presented or render it onto your page. Now, what we have done here is enable you to actually, instead of calling it every time, this endpoint, you can actually go and call the data, stage it into the table, and then use that table to create the data. Whenever the data has been updated on the back end, then you can actually go and do a synchronization. And this particular synchronization can be timed, right? So in our case, let me see, where's my REST enabled endpoint? Okay, it's should be here. I'm not sure why it's not showing. But yeah, let me get back to you on that. I can't seem to, doesn't really load it. Okay, so I am loading it into those countries. Yeah, so this is actually the table that I'm populating with that, and it's actually going to from a endpoint, right? Okay. So let me get back to you on that one. I just need to check what's wrong with my application here. So that is one thing. So it can actually go and stage data, and then you create the data from a local table instead of calling it from a backend. Now, the other thing that you can do is actually go and load it as well in a different way, right? So if I go back to my my applications, let's say a global exchange app that I have built here, it gets the data from an external service. So while you're building, right, while you're building your table, and this is one of the exercises as well, right? It will actually help you to import the table from a CSV file, right, which is remote. So if I look into the SQL commands that I have, right, I have some saved SQL here. Now it seems my pre okay, here. So here I have like a populate, right? So what I can do here, I can create a script, right, that actually creates that populates the data for you. So in this case, I know that this file is going to be updated, right? So, and this is my set. So I will just periodically run this script to actually refresh the data, right, that I have in my table, right? So this is also another way to do, from an external source, getting the data into your database, right? So again, from your, the application that you're going to build, I mean, there might be like data that is coming from external systems. And what you can do there is, basically getting all the data and manage it into your database. Yeah. All right. So this is kind of like what I wanted to show in the demo. So let's go back into my presentation. Right. So as you can see, right, Apex is really data driven. You can import new data or use existing or create a new model, right? So you can upload the CSV file, or you can start with, the data that's already in your database, or you can make use of quick SQL or even like normal SQL if you're well first in SQL to actually build your data model and generate test data for that. Okay. What we have seen as well is the user interfaces are very extensible and configurable. I've shown you the theme roller where you can actually go and modify it. There is a page designer that you have seen that you can actually go and drag and drop the different components into a different area. We have seen the universal theme that gives you all the different details of what you can do with the look and feel. There is an icon builder, and there is also like a button builder that helps you to generate the different code for your buttons. What I've shown as well is the productivity and the sample apps that you can make use of, right? So there's a lot of different sample apps that you can use as a reference, or you can actually take up and make it your own. And you can learn about the best practices around developing an application using Visual Builder, right? Then what I show you as well is the ability to actually unlock your data. We have the data in Apex, and Apex is pre-installed with on our Oracle database, and with that also pre-installed ORDS, which is our REST data service. With this REST data service, you can then expose your data and make use of your data in your digital assistant, for example. And there will be a workshop as well that will talk about digital assistants. And of course, if you want to build native mobile applications and you need the data, you can access it. There's also another solution that Oracle provides, is a local tool to build mobile applications, and that is called Visual Builder. Right? Of course, other applications that want to query the data that you have. Now, if you look at how Apex is actually, so basically Apex is a browser-based IDE. Right? All the application definitions are stored as metadata in the database. And because the application runs with the database, there's zero or very low latency of accessing your data, right? So that's why, if you have really data-driven application and you need to process the data and access the data quick, then Apex will be done for you. And this is what I've seen as what I show as well. So basically, we have a browser which actually connects to our Oracle REST data service, where you can access then the Apex runtime, the schemas, your SQL code, expose REST, and connect. If you have and it will actually connect through JDBC to the autonomous database, and it's all pre-configured for you and pre-installed on the autonomous database available on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. So really make use of that. It will be very useful. Now, when we look into the resources, right? First of all, join the Smart Cities Hack Slack space on on Slack, right? There will be, most of the mentors will be, looking or will be monitoring that. So if you have questions, that you can actually ping it there. There are basically tutorials, right? So if you go to apex.org.com and learn tutorials, you will have 5 or 6 different tutorials for you to start with. Now, what are the tutorials that I would recommend to you to start with and to really give you that understanding? So first of all, we had the spreadsheet lab, right? And this kind of like the same thing that I've just shown to you. What it will help you is to actually build your first application through uploading a spreadsheet or making use of the data that's available in an Apex. Again, it will show you how to improve the search and report pages and how to link to different pages, right? That is one thing I would recommend. The other thing is building an application using existing tables. Now, the good thing about this one, it will teach you and show you how to actually generate a table using the quick SQL, and also how you can link different tables to each other, and also from there generate the application pages, etc. And then also the other thing that I would like to recommend to you is the remote data source lab, because most likely the application that you're going to build will rely on data that's coming from external source. Have a look at that. It will teach you how to set it up and how to call and connect to external sources, right? And in the end, if you want to really make use of like spatial capabilities or some machine learning capabilities in the database, then have a look into the last here, this particular lab exercise, which will help you to use and show you how you can use spatial in Oracle database, and make use of some machine learning capabilities there as well, right? And how to secure your Apex app data, for example, masking of credit card numbers or telephone numbers or things like that, right? So it will show you those capabilities and how you can do that. Of course, have a look into other resources like about our autonomous database. There's Oracle Apex, there's a community, there are blogs, and there's social media, right? And especially, if you have questions during these days that you are going to do your application for the hackathon, the Slack channel is open for that. Now, if there are any questions or not, I think most of the questions are answered probably if I look into the Q&A. Okay, so there are no questions. Well, what I would say, thank you again for attending. I think that we just 4 minutes left, 5 minutes left. Thank you. We will share this presentation deck with the attendees, and we will you will have the links to the lab exercises with the instructions on how to set up your Apex or how to provision actually your Apex on our Oracle Cloud infrastructure. Yeah. So thank you very much. Anything else? All right, great. Well, have a good day and happy hacking. And we'll see you, and hopefully you will attend to our next workshop. Have a great day.
Thanks, Rodney.